What happens when I confess I slept with my ex to remember who I was, and my quiet husband answers with procedure instead of rage? How can a crowd that cheered my honesty turn into witnesses when the law speaks? Why did I believe intention cancels action until a server said my name in a public lobby? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm Lenora Vale, 32, and I said it was only closure. I ran a museum gift shop, which meant I sold memories in clean wrapping. Last week, I met my ex, Cassian, and I let the past touch the present for one night. I told myself I was testing my heart so I could choose my husband better. Adrian Cole, my husband, liked facts and quiet. He asked if my test had asked for his consent. I said love is context. He asked for plain truth. I said intention cancels action. At home, I staged calm. I set 2 mugs on opposite counters and called it style. The wall planner carried a red circle on a date I did not choose. A sticky note on the fridge read, "Bring forms," in his neat hand. The apartment smelled faintly like printer toner, warm and dry, as if pages had moved at night. The guest bed looked pressed in the center. He said he needed space. I said he was punishing me. My mother posted hearts under my selfie. My sister texted, "Please stop." Adrian opened his laptop to a spreadsheet with initials and dates. His phone lit once with a muted banner, private, and went dark. I told myself I would win. I woke before the alarm and made the kitchen bright on purpose. I opened the blinds, wiped the counter until it shone, and placed our 2 mugs on opposite sides like small islands. His navy by the fruit bowl, my cream by the sink. I told myself it was design, not distance. I took a photo of the light on the kettle and saved it to drafts. Calm likes proof when people doubt you. Adrian came in with that quiet step that never shakes a chair. He asked if I had slept. I said I had slept fine. He asked if I wanted to add anything to what I told him last night. I said I had told him everything important and that it was only closure. He asked if my closure had asked for his consent. I said love has context. He asked for plain truth. I said intention cancels action. He looked at the steam rising from his cup like steam could report the facts. The wall planner caught a bar of sun. A red circle sat around a date for next week. I had not drawn it. I asked what the circle meant. He said he liked to mark important tasks. A sticky note on the fridge read, "Bring forms," in his small, exact hand. I tapped it and said, paper was his first love. He said paper kept memories honest. I said memory is honest when a heart is honest. He said hearts can be foggy. I opened my group chat because friends help you breathe. Kemi had posted clapping emojis under my mirror selfie and wrote that brave women make small minds nervous. I showed the screen and said support existed for people who moved forward. He said crowds do not live with consequences. I said crowds keep the story honest. He said records keep it honest. I began my careful speech. I said meeting Cassian had been medicine, a way to see my old self clearly so I could return home better. I said I had chosen Adrian by morning, which should count twice. He asked if my medicine had side effects for other people. I said only weak people think like that. He asked if I had told Cassian about boundaries. I said we were adults, and adults know shapes. He asked if any doors had closed behind me after midnight. I said doors close everywhere. That is why they are doors. He asked if choosing him now erased what I had chosen yesterday. I said he was making math where poetry belonged. He opened his laptop on the table. A spreadsheet appeared, columns of dates and initials, no names. I asked if he was mapping archive shipments again. He minimized the window without hurry and said he liked details to sit in lines. I said the only line that mattered was that I loved him. He asked if I had told that line to anyone else in a room with blackout curtains. I said he was being cruel. He said he was being exact. The apartment carried a faint smell like printer toner, warm and dry, the way air smells after pages move at night. Our small printer stirred, hummed, and pushed a single blank page onto the tray. I laughed and said, even the machine wanted drama. He said machines only do what they are told. I asked who told him to sleep in the guest room. He said he needed air he could trust. I said, quiet his performance. He said, quiet his honesty. I walked to the bedroom to fetch a sweater. The guest bed was smooth at the corners, pressed in the center, as if a hand had pressed its worry there all night. His keyring lay on the dresser, and a new, unfamiliar key flashed like a coin in a trick. I asked if we had a new mailbox. He said he had errands. I said errands sounded like a cover. He said errands were tasks. I said tasks can be secrets in work clothes. Back in the kitchen, I tried the softer story. I said Cassian had always been noise and I wanted the noise to stop, so I checked it myself, like a brave person checks a door. I said the past loses power when you look at it under bright light. He asked if I had told the past that he existed. I said the past already knew. He asked if the present knew everything the past took. I said he was being jealous. He said jealousy is not a substitute for a timeline. I checked our shared calendar on my phone. A banner flashed and folded, downtown 2:35 p.m. I swiped it away fast. I said he was always running to offices and that was fine. He said he liked to return calls on time. I said punctuality is a costume for cold people. He said punctuality is respect. I said respect is what I did when I kept stress off his desk. He asked who put stress on his desk in the first place. My mother, Moira, sent 3 hearts and a rose under the selfie from last night. She wrote that brave daughters scare small men. I angled the screen toward him and said even my mother understood growth. He asked if my mother would pay our rent when growth went bad. I said he was being dramatic. He said I was being public. He took a slow photo of the wall planner with the red circle. I asked if we were starting a scrapbook. He said he was keeping records. I said records are cold. He said dignity is warm and still needs records. The words sounded like a coat he put on and wore perfectly. He walked to the study and slid a thin binder labeled utilities into his tote. The tote dipped heavier than paper should make it. I joked that he was moving to the library. He said he liked order. I said order is control with a smile. He said order keeps people safe. I said safety kills romance. He said lies kill it faster. On the desk, the laptop screen woke when my sleeve brushed the trackpad. A clean desktop showed 2 new folders side by side. Archive A and Archive B. I said I loved that he was finally decluttering like I asked. He did not smile. A cloud icon blinked once, then dimmed like something had finished traveling. I tried another approach. I said I had chosen him after everything, that my yesterday should count for more than the mistake. He asked if choosing after breaking made the break disappear. I said I could post a careful note about learning and growth, and people would give grace. He said he did not need a crowd, he needed a timeline. I said apologies work better live. He said lives work better with truth. His phone buzzed with a soft vibration. The screen lit a muted banner and went dark before I could read more than the tone of it. He turned the device face down. I asked who needed privacy at 10 in the morning. He said some things require care. I said I was care. He said care begins with facts. I stepped onto the balcony and watched the street look normal. I rehearsed a caption about difficult honesty and almost posted it. I saved it to drafts because my hands shook. When I came back in, I heard a faint beep from the hall, the kind a recording app makes when it starts or ends. I said old pipes make odd noises. He did not answer. He lifted his camera again and took a picture of the guest bed, then of the 2 mugs on opposite counters. I asked if he wanted a picture of my face too. He said faces change. I said proof on my terms would fix this faster. He said proof on any terms does not change what already happened. I said his calm was cruel. He said his calm was necessary. I said, Necessary is a word for people who want to feel superior. He said necessary is a word for people who want to stop falling. He checked the time and said he had a personal errand. I said personal belongs to both of us. He said not everything merges. I said he was freezing me out. He said he needed the facts to hold before words tried to. I said words build bridges. He said words also burn them. I asked if he would forgive me. He said he would keep his dignity. My phone buzzed with a preview I could not catch. It folded away like a bird. The printer hummed and pushed a second blank page onto the tray, as if the first needed a friend. He walked to the guest room. The latch met the strike in a soft, exact sound, and the hallway turned into a border. The museum opened with the soft hiss of the glass doors and the smell of dust and lemon cleaner. I came early and turned on the pendant lights in the shop, one by one. Light calms donors. I arranged new postcards in a neat fan and wiped the counter until the cloth lifted nothing. Owen, the floor lead, asked if I was ready for member night on the roof. I said events are where I shine. He asked if everything was calm at home. I said calm was my brand. By 9, the open-plan stockroom hummed. Kemi rolled a cart of plush animals and asked if we should price them high for donors. I said donors love to feel generous. She asked if the comments were rough. I said comments are air and I am stone. She laughed because she thought I was joking. I smiled because I wanted it to be true. Soren, my manager, appeared at the doorway and asked for a quick word. His calm voice made my stomach tight. We stepped into his small office. He said some patrons had written about last week's patio clip, the one with Cassian too close. I said angles lie, and nostalgia looks worse on camera. He said the museum needed quiet. He slid a clipboard toward me. The top sheet showed one word only. Statement. He asked for a neutral note for the file. I wrote that humor can be misread and that my private life would not affect operations. I signed with a neat loop. He thanked me and said he valued steady staff. I said steady was my middle name. Back at the counter, I checked my phone like a person checking a bandage. My mother had left more hearts under my coral selfie. My sister Iris had sent a private line that said, "Please stop." I replied that family should clap first. She sent a single dot, which felt heavier than words. I muted the thread so I could breathe. Muting is a kind of courage when you say it is. A woman in a linen dress browsed the jewelry and watched me the way people watch a painting they think they know. She asked if I was the one who posted about closure. I said I was the one who keeps the store running. She said her bridge group loved honesty. I smiled like a sales banner and wrapped her necklace. When she left, Owen said I handled that well. I said practice builds grace. Near noon, I took the staff hallway to the tiny kitchen and poured coffee. The printer on the corner table spooled up and pushed a single blank page before the supply order. I tossed the blank sheet and told myself, machines make mistakes and humans frame them. I am good at frames. I stepped into the stock corridor with a tray of mugs. Rena from marketing stopped me and asked if the rooftop script could skip any lines about testing relationships. I said, testing sells clicks. She said donors prefer certainty. I said certainty is a cage. She said certainty pays invoices. I said I could be certain for one night. After lunch, I went out to buy fruit because normal people buy fruit. The supermarket smelled like paper bags and sugar. In the checkout line, the neighbor from our building stood behind me. She looked at her phone, then at my face. She asked if Adrian was okay. I said Adrian loved order and would make a plan. She said plans work best when both people see them. I said we saw enough. She nodded like a person done with a subject and turned her cart. When I got home to change into a softer top, the apartment wore that faint toner smell again, warm and dry, like pages cooling. On the bookcase, a single USB stick waited under the taxes folder with today's date written on tape. I told myself Adrian had finally learned to label like a grown adult. The laptop sat open. I brushed the trackpad. 3 tabs stared back at me. storage options, delivery tracking, notary near me. A little cloud icon popped up and said, "File uploaded successfully." I tapped the screen dark fast as if the light could bite. My chest felt tight, so I opened a window and called it fresh air. Adrian came in and set his keys in the dish. The unfamiliar key flashed like a coin. I asked if he had joined a gym. He said he had errands. I said we should post a soft picture before the roof event so people calm down. He said the evening would be private for him. I said, private is a cover for men who want control. He said, private is how careful people think. I said careful is how cowards hide. He did not rise. He opened his laptop. A spreadsheet with only initials and dates glowed for one breath and then vanished as he minimized it. A message preview slid across the top, follow-up, and folded itself away. He set the phone face down. I said he was keeping secrets. He said he was keeping order. I said order without love is ice. He said ice keeps food safe. I changed, picked the coral jacket again, and returned to work with my best public smile. The member desk filled with names. Kemi asked if we needed a special tray for the big donors. I said yes, with lemon slices. Rena asked if I could avoid words like experiment. I said I could say growth. She said growth is safer if it is quiet. I said growth hates quiet. Around 3, Soren walked over with the same clipboard. The air near him felt like the glass in front of a painting. He asked for another quick word before the evening. He said a patron had forwarded a new tag. He said it looked like the same patio, a different angle, my hand on Cassian's arm as he leaned. I said good faith people do not Zoom. He said phones do. I nodded and held my smile until he left. Then I breathed out and turned to the register to count the float again for no reason. Numbers are calm even when I lie to them. At 5, I set the check-in table for the rooftop. The skyline glowed like a clean promise. I chose a high table near the rail because phones love rails. I rehearsed one soft line in my head about love as a museum where pieces are studied, not touched. I told myself I would sell grace and the room would obey. My phone buzzed. The member chat pinged with small bells. Kemi sent a picture of the glassware in the early light. Rena sent the caption options. I chose the one that said community first. I stared at the screen until my face reflected in it. I looked like a person who could carry a story to safety. The elevator opened and donors stepped out, soft shoes on concrete. I pinned on my name badge like armor. The wind slid under the edges of the rented tablecloths. Jules from Photo asked for a quick test shot, and I gave him my practiced angle. People began to hum around me. This is where I live, I thought. In light, in yes. Soren crossed the deck toward me with the clipboard again. He asked if we could speak for 1 minute before the toast. At the same time, my phone lit my name in bold. A new tag pinged, a shaky clip of me and Cassian on a patio. The date stamp clear, comments gathering like flies on a bowl of fruit. My stomach made a small, mean knot. The rooftop turned gold at the edges. I chose a high table by the rail, because phones like rails. I set the name badges in a clean fan and told myself I owned this floor. Donors rose from the elevator in small groups. Soft shoes, small laughs, the click of a camera testing focus. I greeted them with the calm voice I keep for money. I said the museum was grateful. I said the night would be gentle. I said I would guide them through beauty. Jules lifted the camera and asked for a light test. I turned toward the river and gave him the angle that works. Kemi whispered that the big couple had arrived. I walked to them with a smile that looked like glass. The woman asked if the rumors were true. I said the rumor was that our member program was thriving. She laughed and said I was quick. I said I worked retail. Quick is survival. She eased. Money likes jokes that end tidy. Across the deck, 2 women watched me, the way people watch traffic at a busy corner. One repeated my line from last week about intention outranking action. The other asked if vows had a volume knob. I kept my shoulders soft. I poured water with both hands steady. I said our museum believed in conversation. Their faces said conversation had not helped me yet. Cassian slid in near the hedge with a grin that expects yes. He asked if the setup pleased me. I said the setup was fine and that he should speak to the bar if he needed anything. He asked if the online noise was heavy. I said noise is only air when you know how to breathe. He showed me a tiny thumbnail on his phone, 5 seconds from the club patio. He said leverage kept bullies from shouting. I told him to delete it. He put the phone away like he had already done it. I did not believe him, but I pretended I did because pretense keeps rooms from tilting. Sunset came like a soft order. Soren touched my elbow and asked if I was ready for a toast. I said I would be brief. I lifted my glass because empty hands looked guilty. I said community is how we survive strange times. I said honesty makes families stronger. I said the museum was a home, not a court. The crowd made that mixed sound that wants both kindness and blood. Jules kept the camera high. Kemi stood near the bar with her mouth in a careful line. My phone buzzed in my palm. A calendar alert from our shared home account flashed and folded. Downtown 11:10 a.m. I pressed the screen dark before anyone saw. I pictured Adrian crossing a quiet floor somewhere, speaking in short, exact lines to someone who wrote them down. The image made my neck hot. I told myself he was ordering storage bins for our hall. I told myself bins are love in grey plastic. I moved among the donors. I touched shoulders. I placed napkins. I laughed on time. A man in a navy jacket asked if my marriage used the same rules as our mixers. I said my marriage had better rules, and that is why I could smile without fear. He said fear often hides inside big smiles. I walked away before his idea could grow a body. The wind cooled. The DJ dipped into a slower track. I took the elevator down, with 2 sponsors for a smoke break even though I do not smoke. The club patio smelled like mint and warm metal. A group by the ashtray watched a clip on a phone. My line about closure drifted out of it and landed wrong on the concrete. One woman asked if closure meant repeat visits. I said closure meant final. She said cameras do not think that word is final. She did not smile. Cassian stood by the rail again and lifted his phone toward the skyline. I told him to stop. He said the river forgave everything. I said the river did not sign the vows. He laughed like he knew lyrics I did not. He asked if Adrian had texted. I said Adrian trusted me. He asked if trust had a lock. I said trust had history. He nodded with his mouth and filmed 5 seconds more, careful not to catch me, careful enough to mean the opposite. Back upstairs, the air felt crowded with screens. A young donor asked if I would give a short talk about modern promises. I said modern promises are old promises with better lighting. A man near the rail said lighting shows dust. I said dust proves history. He said dust also means neglect. I handed him a napkin like it was an answer. I slipped into the stairwell for 30 seconds to breathe. The concrete smelled like chalk. I checked our shared calendar again and saw the red circle living there like a quiet bruise. I scrolled my drafts and hovered over a caption about difficult honesty. I saved it again without posting. When I returned to the deck, Soren signaled for a second toast because donors love structure. I nodded and walked into the light. I spoke slower. I said I believed in learning in public. I said, mistakes can teach and still leave love standing. Phones rose like small moons. Someone in the second row repeated the word mistake and made it plural under her breath. I felt it hit the rail behind me. I kept the smile pinned to my face like a badge. After the toast, I slipped out early to change shoes and pick up a scarf at home. The apartment greeted me with that faint toner smell again, warm and dry, like a copy room at closing. On the shelf, the single USB sat under the taxes folder, the date in neat tape. On the desk, 3 binders waited in a straight row: home, auto, bank. Their covers looked new or perfectly wiped. I brushed the trackpad. The laptop woke to a clean desktop with 2 folders side by side: Archive A and Archive B. From the spare room, the shredder hummed once, stopped, then hummed again as if it were practicing a word. I told myself coupons again. I told myself order is love when you have no better proof. The guest bed was smooth with a dip in the center. I looked away and slipped into low heels. A cloud pop-up blinked in the corner, file uploaded successfully, and then vanished like a blink at a funeral. I locked the door and went back into the night that still wanted to clap for someone. I stopped at the pharmacy for breath mints because small details can rescue a scene. The line moved slow under pale lights. 2 women behind me watched a clip and took turns making faces. One said my speech had been bold. The other said bold is cheap when it costs someone else. I paid and left without meeting their eyes. Outside, the wind pushed paper against my shin, and I shook it off like a story. Back at the community hall next to the museum, a friend's rehearsal was winding down. Streamers hung like tired smiles. People clapped for no reason because clapping is a habit around lights. Adrian stood near the doors talking to the coordinator with his careful hands, palms open, voice low. He made little shapes in the air like he was measuring honesty. Elaine and Thomas stood a few paces back, still and civil. Elaine held her bag with both hands as if it might jump. I floated toward Adrian with my best public face. He asked about timings. I said I was ready for a soft reset. He said rehearsals were for cues. His voice was even. Mine wanted to rise and could not. He stepped aside to answer a call in a tone for instructions, not feelings. He said he understood. He said he would follow steps. He set the phone face down on a chair and returned to stand 3 feet away like a rule. Tamsin, from the client side, asked for one brave line for her reel. Phones lifted again until the space looked like a field of little suns. I stepped into the glow and gave them the line I had sanded flat. I said, love is a market and we learn by moving. The room made a sound like a shrug. I felt the floor tilt a degree. I smiled larger, which made it worse. Across the folding chairs, Adrian's screen lit once and went dark. He lifted the phone without looking at me. He said we could finish soon. I said the night had not heard me yet. He said the night was not the problem. He slipped the phone into his pocket carefully, like a record into a sleeve. I raised my glass for the soft finish. I thought a final phrase could still turn the room. My phone buzzed. A banner slid across and sealed itself before I could catch more than the title. Message thread. Follow up. At the same instant, a camera flash cracked from the left like a tiny storm, and a chant for a toast rose again, louder, faces lit by their own screens and nothing else. The park smelled like wet bark and warm swings. I chose a bench near the path so people could see my calm. Iris came with Poppy and a tote of snacks. She said we could talk while Poppy played. I said fresh air fixes tone. Iris said truth fixes tone. I said truth already sat beside me and was doing fine. She watched my face the way nurses watch a patient who says she feels nothing. I began my soft version. I told her sleeping with Cassian was a one-time test, a way to see my old self so I could return home better. I said I had chosen Adrian by morning, and that should count twice. Iris asked if a second yes erased a first no. I said adulthood had context. She asked if context had asked Adrian. I said I kept stress off his desk because I loved him. She said love usually asks first. I told her she was judging. She said she was tired. Poppy ran from the slide with a dandelion, face serious. She asked if rings can lie by themselves, or if hands make them do it. She asked if promises can breathe in small rooms with doors shut. I said grown-up stories have private rooms that help love grow. She asked if flowers grow under buckets. Iris thanked Poppy for the flower and sent her back to the swing. The question sat between us like small stones in my shoe. On the way home, we passed the mailboxes. In our slot, the envelopes were flipped into 2 neat stacks, my favorite shape, only this time not done by me. A sticky note lay on top in Adrian's small exact hand. It said, "Bring forms." I pressed it flat with my thumb as if pressure made meaning change. Iris said order can be a warning. I said order is love in good clothes. She said love also knocks before it moves in. Upstairs, the apartment smelled faintly like printer toner again, warm and dry, as if pages had moved at night. On the desk, a thin binder labeled Utilities sat on a tote, heavier than paper should be. I lifted it and felt plastic sleeves with almost nothing inside, all promise and no bills. The laptop woke at a touch and showed a clean desktop with 2 folders side by side. Archive A and Archive B. I said Adrian was finally decluttering like I asked. Iris said the screen looked like a sign, not a hobby. I said we were done with signs for today. I changed into a soft dress for lunch with his parents. I told the mirror kindness sells better than defense. Adrian came from the bedroom in a plain shirt and a steady face. I asked if we could take a nice photo before we left. He said the afternoon would be offline. I said silence reads as guilt. He said silence reads as care when words are hot. I said light cools heat. He said light shows burns. He lifted his keys. A new unfamiliar key flashed like a coin. I asked if we had a new mailbox. He said he had errands. I said errands sounded like secrets. He did not answer. He took a slow photo of the red circle on the wall planner and placed his phone face down. The family restaurant felt like warm bread and lemon spray. Elaine rose and gave me a short, tidy hug. Thomas nodded, once the way men do when they pack their opinions for later. My mother had beat us there and had already told the server that a headline keeps a family young. I said today's headline would be Grace. Adrian sat with calm hands. I wanted a speech to push against. He did not give me one. We ordered quickly because everyone wanted to get to the part where I explained. I started first because first words shaped the table. I told them my night with Cassian was closure, medicine, a hard assignment I had given myself so I could choose my husband better. I said secrecy was compassion because I had wanted to keep worry off Adrian's desk. Elaine asked if my compassion had asked for consent. I said consent lived in big moments, not small tests. Adrian said his definition of big included the truth being in another room while he planned our week. Thomas said many small shavings make a pile, and if you ignore the pile, the machine breaks. My mother said, cold husbands ruin meals. Elaine said meals break when truth will not sit down, and she said it with a gentle voice that still cut. I reached for Adrian's hand. He kept his fingers on the water glass. I said, distance hurts more than comments. He said, distance keeps sparks from catching. I said he was punishing me with ice. He said he was keeping facts clear. My mother told him birthdays break for men who freeze. Elaine said families break for any of us who lie, and she looked at no one in particular. Plates arrived and the room warmed. I tried another angle. I called my night with Cassian a diagnostic, like a test in a quiet clinic. I said success should count, not the experiment. Thomas asked if people clap for a patient who brings a new fever to prove she is alive. I said critics fear women who refuse to be small. My mother clapped once like a fan at a school play. Adrian looked at the exit sign as if it knew the rules. Poppy climbed onto the chair beside Iris and set her chin on her hands. She asked if cake can glue promises back together, or if cake only makes crumbs under the table. I said cake is a symbol. She asked if symbols feed anyone. Iris thanked her again and gave her a crayon. Poppy drew a house with no door and said the house was quiet so the people inside would not argue. The picture looked tidy and wrong. Elaine asked if we could keep the lunch off the feed. I said my feed was part of my work. Elaine said then, treat it like work and be careful. My mother said the internet loves a redemption arc. Thomas slid his card into the check folder before the plates were empty and said early endings save tempers. He always knows how to end a scene without a scene. I hate how well it works. Outside, the sign threw blue on our faces. My mother told me to post a soft caption about growth. I said I might. Elaine placed a light hand on my sleeve, and said the next words should be careful. She said dignity keeps a family steady. I said I always choose dignity. The word felt heavy in my mouth like a borrowed stone. We walked to the cars. Adrian's sedan faced the street again, nose toward the exit like a thought ready to go. I told myself he liked easy turns. I also told myself I was tired of seeing the same direction. He opened the passenger door and drove without the radio. The engine sounded like a low rule. He parked straight, as if lines could save lives. In the lobby, the mail had been sorted by size again, the extra order he makes when he is thinking too much. Upstairs, I reached for the study door to say we should plan a gentle post anyway. Adrian reached first and closed it softly. He said he needed quiet. I said, silence is a knife. He said truth does not cut if handled right. I said I would post a picture with no caption and let people guess kindness. He said edges tell the shape. He walked down the hall like a person counting. I stood in the kitchen with the utilities binder in my hands. It still felt heavier than its name. I set it down and brushed the trackpad. Archive A and Archive B waited like two roads that did not cross. The two mugs sat where I had placed them this morning, looking like little border posts. I said through the door that we should talk tonight and set a plan. He said we would speak tomorrow. I said tomorrow needs a time. He said plans work when facts hold. His phone lit once in his hand with a small banner I caught this time. Meeting, personal. He tapped it dark. He stepped into the guest room. The latch closed with that soft, exact sound that turns a hallway into a border, while Poppy's question about crumbs pressed behind my ribs. The metro smelled like wet metal and cold air. I stood by the door so I could see our reflections blur in the black window. Adrian took a seat one space away, like the distance was a rule. I said people would think we were fighting. He said people would think about their stops. I said I needed his shoulder. He said I needed truth. I blinked hard until one tear formed because tears change scenes. He handed me a tissue and looked at the route map like it could sign papers for him. The train rattled and the teen across from us watched my shoes instead of my face. My phone buzzed. The member chat had moved from jokes to advice. Someone said a joint apology would bring the likes back. Another said donors fear mess. I typed a paragraph about growth and almost sent it, then deleted it because it sounded like begging. I posted a photo of my coffee cup on the metro window and wrote that motion clears the mind. Hearts rose. Hearts still count if I say they count. We reached our stop. In the parking garage, the air felt like bread from a fridge. Adrian opened the trunk and placed a thin folder labeled household on top of a heavier tote. He did it like a person placing a brick in a wall. I laughed and said parties do not need filing cabinets. He said order travels. I said order without warmth is ice. He said ice keeps food safe. His car faced the street again, nose to the exit like a thought waiting to go. I told myself he liked easy turns. I told myself I was not scared. His phone chimed with an alarm labeled paper drop. He swiped it away with one clean motion. He put on headphones and stepped 2 paces back to make a call. He spoke little and listened a lot. He said he understood. He said he would follow instructions. The word instructions pressed under my ribs like a thumb. He slipped the headphones into his pocket and looked at me as if I were a sign he could read without stopping. At home, the apartment wore that faint toner smell again. Warm and dry, like pages cooling after midnight. On the hall table sat an unsealed envelope in his neat hand. I lifted the flap with one finger and put it down fast, as if it burned. He watched my hand and said the kitchen was not a mailbox. I said, a marriage has no locked drawers. He said respect does. I said, respect is where people hide. He did not argue. He moved to the desk. The top drawer clicked locked when I approached. He opened his laptop. A spreadsheet with only initials and dates blinked. Calm columns, no names. I asked if he was mapping archive shipments again. He minimized the window without hurry. A cloud sync pop-up flashed. File uploaded successfully. He dismissed it with one finger. I told myself taxes, because people who love you make taxes easy. I went to the balcony and breathed the thin city wind. I typed a caption about learning in public and saved it to drafts because my hands shook. I called Iris and said he was freezing me out and that it was cruel. She said cold can be careful. I said she had chosen his side. She said she chose Poppy's side, which meant the adults should behave. I ended the call before she could say quiet. Adrian came out and stood with both hands on the railing. I said I was scared he would leave. He said he was still here. I said I could not breathe inside silence. He said he would speak soon in the way that mattered. I said the crowd would calm if it saw us together. He said the crowd had never helped us. I said the crowd loves a comeback. He said he did not. Inside, I set 2 plates and lit a small candle because soft light forgives faces. I said we could take a photo with no caption and let people guess kindness. He said there would be no post. I said he was making me small. He said he was making the mess smaller. I told him a grand apology arc would fix this faster than any office. He said speed was not the goal. He took his phone and photographed small things with slow care. The wall planner with its red circle, the guest bed with the pressed pillow, the 2 mugs waiting on opposite counters like border posts. He moved like a person tracing letters on stone. I said he was doing theatre. He said he preferred records to guesses. I said records are cold. He said dignity is warm. I hated how the line fit him. From the spare room, the shredder hummed, stopped, then hummed again, like a breath that could not choose. I stood in the doorway and asked if he was shredding our life. He said he was shredding junk mail. I said it sounded like a play. He said, plays perform to the back row. He was not performing. I stayed longer than needed, as if the machine might spell a word I could use. My phone buzzed with a preview from a thread titled Follow Up. It folded away before I could read more. A second buzz came from a contact saved with just an emoji, Cassian's habit. He wrote that he still had a clip if I needed leverage. I told him to delete it. He sent a thumbs up that felt like a smirk. I deleted our thread and opened my gallery to find a soft picture. Between flowers and shelves, a sharp image waited. A grey page corner. No words, only edge and light. I deleted it. It reappeared with today's date. I told myself clouds make ghosts when they sink. Twilight turned the kitchen blue. I said if Adrian kept treating me like an enemy, maybe I should stay at Cassian's for a night and make the joke real just to prove I was free. He said he heard me. I said I could go live and tell my side and people would understand. He said I should do what I needed. I said I would ruin him if he kept this up. He said he would keep his dignity. The empty space around his voice made me angry because it gave me nothing to push. I tried a softer push. I said we could draft a joint message, plain and kind, then let the weekend cool the room. He said we would say less. I said less is surrender. He said less is clean. I said clean is boring. He said clean is safe. I said safety killed love. He said lies did. I kept breathing like a person posing for a class. He placed his phone on the table face down, then lifted it again. He opened the camera, steadied his hands, and took one more photo of the red circle. He took another of the guest bed. He took the mugs again, one on each counter. He looked at the doorway as if measuring the light. He said he would handle the matter properly. He said there would be steps. He did not list them. He did not ask me to agree. He let the words sit between us like a folded letter waiting for air. I laughed and called him dramatic. He said he would not be dramatic. He said he would be exact. He put the utilities binder into the tote. The tote dipped heavier than paper should make it. He locked the desk drawer. The small click felt like a period. In the hall, his phone lit with a reminder. Meeting, personal. He tapped it dark. The printer woke and fed a single blank page onto the tray with a dry whisper. The shredder hummed once more and went still. The laptop made a small sound, like a file closing. I tried to hear something else in those sounds and heard nothing. I stood very straight and said we could still fix this if he posted one image, just one. He said our lives were not a feed. I said the feed was the room. He said the room would be a lobby soon. I asked what he meant. He said he would follow the steps. He picked up the tote and set it by the door, facing out. The courthouse lobby smelled like stone and cold coffee. I waited by the directory with a caption in my head. Adrian stood near security, hands in his coat. I said we could talk. He said the morning would be simple. A man asked my name, confirmed it, and placed an envelope in my hand. He said it was service of a divorce petition with temporary orders, listed access windows to the apartment, joint accounts frozen pending accounting, an inventory appointment scheduled, and a demand to remove posts about the dispute. Adrian said he would follow the steps. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.